In the world of global entertainment, fame is often measured by numbers. Followers rise and fall, streaming records are broken overnight, and headlines shift with every passing trend. Yet behind the endless statistics lies a far more intriguing question: which BTS member truly holds the greatest individual influence in 2026? Official records reveal remarkable achievements, while industry analysts continue to examine brand value, media exposure, search trends, and worldwide public recognition. Some rankings appear predictable, others challenge long-held assumptions, fueling debates across countless online communities. As the evidence is carefully assembled, an unexpected pattern begins to emerge, one that suggests popularity is no longer defined by music alone, but by an invisible network of cultural impact stretching across continents. The countdown begins at number 7, where the first clues reveal just how complex this global phenomenon has become. Number 7. Jimin. As the first light of dawn in Seoul in early 2026, countless digital dashboards around the world were already updating in real time. Search engines refreshed their rankings, streaming platforms recorded millions of new interactions, and social media algorithms quietly recalculated which names would dominate global conversations before most people had even begun their day. Among the names that consistently appeared near the top was Park Jimin. Yet, despite his undeniable influence, the overall picture surrounding his individual popularity presented a far more complex story than many observers expected. Official records showed that Jimin remained one of the most recognized Korean artists on the planet, supported by extraordinary streaming achievements, remarkable brand partnerships, and an intensely loyal global fan base. However, when analysts attempted to compare every BTS member using multiple indicators instead of a single statistic, Jimin ultimately occupied the 7th position in this particular ranking. The result immediately sparked widespread discussion because it contradicted assumptions held by many casual fans who viewed popularity through only one lens. Industry observers emphasize that popularity is never determined by a single number. Instead, it emerges from a combination of media visibility, global search interest, commercial influence, international recognition, digital engagement, brand reputation, public sentiment, and the consistency of worldwide attention over an extended period. Throughout 2026, official tracking services continued to record enormous engagement surrounding Jimin's activities. His solo music maintained impressive streaming figures across major platforms, his performances continued attracting millions of viewers, and his visual identity remained one of the most discussed topics within fashion and luxury branding. Numerous marketing experts noted that brands still regarded Jimin as one of the strongest ambassadors, capable of generating extraordinary online interaction within hours of any public appearance. Every airport arrival, magazine cover, or social media update frequently became a trending subject in multiple countries almost instantly. Yet, analysts also pointed out another phenomenon. While Jimin's dedicated supporters demonstrated exceptional loyalty and remarkable organizational strength, broader public attention appeared increasingly distributed across all 7 members as individual careers evolved following military service and expanding solo activities. Various market reports suggested that public recognition was becoming more diversified rather than concentrated on only 1 or 2 members. This shift created an environment where measuring individual popularity became significantly more challenging than in previous years. Entertainment researchers explained that different regions often displayed dramatically different preferences. In several Asian markets, Jimin continued to dominate fashion-related discussions and public admiration. In parts of Europe, his artistic image remained highly influential among younger audiences. Across North America, however, search behavior occasionally favored members involved in major international collaborations or viral media appearances during specific periods of the year. As a result, no single member consistently led every measurable category simultaneously. Data specialists frequently warned that interpreting popularity required examining long-term patterns rather than isolated viral moments. A temporary spike in online mentions could generate misleading conclusions if separated from broader trends lasting several months. According to official data available throughout 2026, Jimin demonstrated extraordinary consistency instead of sudden explosive growth. His audience remained remarkably stable, producing reliable engagement levels that many celebrities could only dream of achieving. Nevertheless, consistency alone was not always enough to surpass members experiencing simultaneous expansion across multiple international sectors. Fashion experts continued highlighting Jimin's unique influence on luxury branding. Clothing worn during public appearances often sold out within hours, while accessories associated with him experienced noticeable increases in consumer demand. Industry analysts referred to this recurring phenomenon as evidence of sustained commercial power rather than temporary celebrity fascination. Such influence extended beyond fashion into cosmetics, lifestyle products, and cultural discussions surrounding Korean entertainment worldwide. However, commercial influence represented only one component within the broader methodology used by researchers attempting to evaluate overall popularity. Social media presented another fascinating layer of complexity. Digital analysts observed that engagement quality sometimes carried greater significance than raw follower counts. Jimin's posts regularly generated enormous interaction rates, demonstrating that his audience remained exceptionally active rather than passively consuming content. Comment sections filled with dozens of languages illustrated the remarkable international diversity of his supporters. Yet algorithm specialists also noted increasing competition among BTS members themselves, each establishing unique identities appealing to different demographic groups. Instead of competing directly, their individual careers increasingly occupied separate cultural spaces, making straightforward comparisons progressively more difficult. Several entertainment commentators argued that Jimin possessed one of the strongest emotional connections with audiences. His performances often inspired intense reactions because of their expressive choreography and emotional delivery. Critics repeatedly praised his ability to transform technical precision into performances that felt deeply personal, creating memorable moments extending beyond ordinary concerts. Psychological studies concerning fan behavior frequently suggested that emotional attachment contributes significantly to long-term popularity, reinforcing Jimin's enduring global presence even during periods with relatively limited promotional activity. Despite these strengths, numerous discussions emerged regarding why he appeared at number 7 in this ranking. Various speculations circulated online, ranging from differing evaluation criteria to regional weighting methods. Some fans argued that streaming achievements deserved greater emphasis, while others believed public recognition outside dedicated fandoms should carry more influence. Official analyses generally concluded that rankings inevitably change depending on which measurable indicators receive priority. Consequently, occupying 7th place didn't indicate declining relevance, but instead reflected the increasingly competitive landscape created by 7 globally recognized individuals whose influence extended into different sectors simultaneously. Perhaps the most intriguing observation came from experts studying cultural longevity rather than immediate popularity. They suggested that Jimin's greatest strength might not be explosive visibility, but remarkable resilience. Even during quieter periods, his presence rarely disappeared from international conversations for long. This persistent relevance distinguished enduring global icons from celebrities whose popularity fluctuated dramatically with each promotional cycle. Various official records continued demonstrating that Jimin remained among the most influential Korean entertainers worldwide, regardless of his precise position within any particular ranking. In the end, the evidence painted a portrait far more nuanced than simple numerical comparisons could capture. Jimin stood as an artist whose influence reached music, fashion, performance, and global culture simultaneously, yet whose exact placement remained subject to the evolving metrics used to define popularity itself. If one of the world's most recognizable performers could still become the subject of endless debate regarding his true standing, then perhaps the mystery was never about the numbers at all, but about whether global influence can ever be measured with complete certainty. Number 6. J-Hope. As evening settled over major cities across Asia, Europe, and North America, another familiar pattern quietly unfolded across the digital landscape. Concert clips accumulated millions of new views within hours, fan discussions expanded across multiple languages, and analytics platforms continuously recalculated engagement metrics that never seemed to stop moving. Somewhere behind these countless streams of information stood Jung Ho-sok, better known to the world as J-Hope. Throughout 2026, his individual individual popularity became one of the most fascinating subjects analyzed by entertainment observers, not because his influence was uncertain, but because it evolved in ways few industry experts had predicted several years earlier. Official records continued to demonstrate that J-Hope possessed one of the strongest international profiles among Korean solo performers. His reputation extended far beyond BTS itself, reaching audiences through music festivals, fashion events, artistic collaborations, and cultural appearances that reinforced his image as more than simply an idol. Yet when multiple indicators including worldwide search interest, media exposure, public recognition, commercial influence, streaming consistency, and long-term international engagement were examined together, this ranking immediately fueled another wave of discussion, reminding audiences that popularity is rarely defined by a single achievement, but rather by a constantly shifting combination of measurable and intangible factors. Industry analysts frequently pointed to one defining characteristic that separated J-Hope from many contemporaries: versatility. While numerous performers successfully build careers around one recognizable identity, J-Hope continuously expanded his public image without abandoning the qualities that first attracted global audiences. Official performance records from previous years remained widely referenced by entertainment experts, particularly his historic appearances at internationally recognized music festivals, where critics praised his ability to command enormous stages as a solo artist. Those moments were not viewed merely as successful concerts, they became cultural reference points that demonstrated the growing global acceptance of Korean artists within mainstream international entertainment. Even in 2026, discussions surrounding those performances continued to appear in documentaries, industry reports, and media analyses whenever experts examined the evolution of K-pop's influence outside Asia. Such long-term recognition strengthened J-Hope's reputation in ways that could not always be measured by daily statistics alone. Music analysts also observed another important trend. Unlike artists who relied heavily on frequent releases to remain visible, J-Hope demonstrated an unusual ability to sustain public attention through the strength of his artistic identity. Whether discussing choreography, production, songwriting, or stage presence, critics consistently highlighted his commitment to performance as a complete artistic experience rather than a sequence of isolated promotional campaigns. Official streaming figures throughout 2026 showed continued interest in both his earlier solo projects and newer material, indicating that audiences repeatedly returned to his catalog instead of consuming it only during release periods. According to several entertainment market evaluations, this pattern suggested the presence of a stable international listener base rather than temporary viral success. Analysts frequently argued that longevity often provides a more reliable indicator of influence than sudden popularity spikes that disappear within weeks. Another significant factor contributing to J-Hope's continued visibility involved fashion and luxury branding. Throughout 2026, international media repeatedly documented his appearances at globally recognized fashion events, where his presence consistently generated extensive coverage from both entertainment journalists and fashion publications. Industry specialists emphasized that luxury brands increasingly sought ambassadors capable of communicating authenticity rather than simply attracting social media impressions. In this regard, J-Hope occupied a distinctive position. His image combined artistic credibility with commercial appeal, allowing him to resonate across multiple industries simultaneously. Marketing analysts frequently cited measurable increases in online engagement following his public appearances, while fashion commentators described his influence as extending beyond clothing into broader conversations about creativity, individuality, and contemporary cultural trends. Official reports continued showing that campaigns associated with him often achieved exceptionally high levels of digital interaction, reinforcing his value as a global public figure. Social media researchers identified another intriguing phenomenon. Rather than generating attention exclusively through dramatic announcements or promotional events, J-Hope maintained visibility through consistent interaction with audiences. Official engagement data suggested that his supporters demonstrated unusually high participation rates across various platforms, with content frequently circulating internationally, regardless of language barriers. Analysts noted that fan-generated material, including performance edits, dance analyses, translations, and artistic tributes, contributed significantly to maintaining his presence within digital communities, even during periods of reduced official activity. This organic circulation distinguished him from celebrities whose visibility depended almost entirely on corporate marketing strategies. According to several media experts, sustained community engagement often reflects deeper cultural influence than headline-driven publicity alone. However, despite these remarkable strengths, analysts also acknowledged why this particular ranking positioned him at number 6 rather than higher. Official observations suggested that the global popularity landscape among BTS members had become increasingly fragmented as each member developed distinct professional identities. Some members achieved extraordinary visibility through acting, some through record-breaking commercial releases, luxury branding, or international collaborations. Consequently, comparing overall popularity required balancing numerous categories that rarely produce identical outcomes. Entertainment researchers repeatedly cautioned against interpreting rankings as definitive measurements of artistic importance. Instead, they emphasized that each member dominated different sectors depending on geographic region, demographic audience, and evaluation methodology. In several countries, J-Hope consistently ranked among the most recognizable BTS members, while alternative datasets produced different hierarchies based on search behavior, streaming activity, or public awareness surveys. Such variations illustrated the complexity inherent in measuring global celebrity within an increasingly interconnected digital environment. Performance specialists frequently returned to one observation that continued distinguishing J-Hope from his contemporaries. They argued that his greatest strength resided not only in technical excellence, but in the emotional atmosphere he created on stage. Every movement appeared deliberate, every transition carefully controlled, yet audiences often described his performances as spontaneous rather than rehearsed. Critics suggested that this balance between discipline and natural expression represented one of the defining characteristics of exceptional entertainers. Official reviews from international concerts consistently praised his ability to establish immediate connections with audiences, regardless of cultural or linguistic differences. This universal communicative ability further reinforced his reputation as one of the strongest performers of his generation. Beyond music, cultural commentators increasingly recognized J-Hope's broader symbolic significance. As Korean popular culture continued expanding across global markets, figures capable of representing artistic professionalism, creative innovation, and cultural openness assumed greater importance. Official cultural discussions frequently referenced BTS members collectively as ambassadors of contemporary Korean influence, yet analysts observed that each individual embodied different aspects of that transformation. J-Hope became associated with optimism, artistic exploration, and creative confidence, qualities that resonated with audiences far beyond traditional K-pop communities. Such intangible influence rarely appeared in conventional statistical reports, yet experts argued that it played a critical role in shaping long-term international recognition. Various speculations naturally emerged following publication of rankings like this one. Some observers questioned whether performance ability deserved greater emphasis. Others argued that solo commercial achievements should outweigh social media engagement or public familiarity. Official analyses generally responded by emphasizing that no universal formula exists for measuring popularity. Every methodology inevitably reflects different priorities, producing different conclusions even when examining identical data. Consequently, J-Hope's placement at number 6 should not be interpreted as evidence of diminished influence, but rather as recognition of the extraordinarily competitive environment created by 7 globally established artists whose careers continued evolving along unique paths. As the evidence accumulated throughout 2026, one conclusion became increasingly difficult to ignore. J-Hope had successfully transformed from an admired member of the world's biggest boy band into a globally respected solo artist whose reputation extended across music, fashion, performance, and contemporary culture. his influence remained undeniable, his artistic credibility continued strengthening, and his international visibility showed remarkable resilience despite constant changes within the entertainment industry. Yet, if someone capable of commanding international stages, shaping luxury branding conversations, and maintaining worldwide recognition could still become the subject of endless debate regarding his exact position, perhaps the real mystery was never where J-Hope ranked, but whether any numerical list could truly capture the full weight of global cultural influence.
Number 5. RM. As midnight quietly settled over Seoul, the city's skyline reflected thousands of lights against the Han River, while far beyond South Korea's borders, another kind of illumination continued without pause. Digital maps tracking global search activity revealed familiar patterns, international media outlets published fresh analyses, and millions of online conversations simultaneously across every major continent. Among the names appearing repeatedly within those discussions was Kim Dong-joon, known globally as RM. Unlike many artists whose popularity depended primarily on chart performance or social media trends, RM occupied a uniquely complex position within the entertainment industry. Official records consistently identified him as one of the most respected musicians and cultural figures to emerge from modern Korean music. Yet, his influence often extended into areas that traditional popularity rankings struggled to quantify. Throughout 2026, analysts examining worldwide search interest, public recognition, commercial impact, international media exposure, cultural relevance, streaming performance, and long-term audience engagement ultimately placed RM in the 5th position. Although the result appeared surprising to some observers, it reflected a broader transformation taking place within global entertainment, where influence was increasingly measured not only by visibility, but also by credibility, leadership, and lasting cultural significance. Entertainment researchers frequently described RM as an anomaly within the global music industry. From the earliest stages of BTS's international expansion, he had become recognized not merely as the group's leader, but as one of its principal intellectual voices. Official interviews, award speeches, and international appearances consistently demonstrated his ability to communicate complex ideas with clarity and composure, earning respect from audiences far beyond traditional K-pop communities. As BTS members continued expanding their individual careers following military service, analysts observed that RM's public identity evolved even further. Rather than pursuing visibility through constant media appearances alone, he increasingly became associated with artistic depth, thoughtful commentary, and creative independence. This distinction proved especially important throughout 2026, when many cultural observers argued that celebrity influence could no longer be measured solely through numbers. Reputation, authenticity, and public trust had become equally significant components of global popularity. Official records throughout the year continued highlighting RM's remarkable achievements as both a performer and songwriter. His solo work maintained consistent international streaming figures, while critics repeatedly praised the lyrical sophistication and thematic ambition present throughout his musical projects. Unlike many commercially driven releases designed primarily for immediate chart success, RM's music frequently invited deeper interpretation, encouraging listeners to revisit songs multiple times rather than consuming them only during release week. Music journalists noted that his albums often generated extensive discussions among critics, scholars, and fans alike, with analyses extending beyond melody into literature, philosophy, psychology, and contemporary social issues. Such conversations contributed to a distinctive form of popularity that differed significantly from conventional viral success. Analysts suggested that while explosive online trends often faded rapidly, intellectually engaging work possessed greater potential for long-term cultural influence. Media specialists also identified RM's extraordinary communication skills as one of his defining strengths. Throughout BTS's global career, official appearances at international international institutions, award ceremonies, and cultural events frequently positioned him as the group's primary spokesperson. His ability to navigate complex interviews in English while maintaining authenticity earned admiration from journalists and industry professionals worldwide. By 2026, that reputation remained firmly established. Official reports continued describing RM as one of the most recognizable Korean public figures in international diplomatic and cultural discussions. Various organizations invited him to participate in conversations extending beyond entertainment itself, reinforcing the perception that his influence reached into education, literature, environmental awareness, and cultural exchange. Experts argued that such recognition represented a different dimension of popularity, one based not only on public affection, but on institutional respect. Another significant factor contributing to RM's position involved his remarkable presence within global art and cultural communities. Throughout recent years, official documentation repeatedly noted his interest in museums, contemporary art, architecture, and historical preservation. His public appreciation for visual arts frequently inspired international audiences to explore exhibitions and cultural institutions that might otherwise have received limited attention. Art professionals occasionally observed measurable increases in public interest following references associated with RM, demonstrating an unusual relationship between celebrity influence and cultural engagement. Analysts described this phenomenon as evidence that his popularity extended beyond commercial entertainment into broader intellectual and artistic spaces rarely occupied by mainstream pop musicians. Such influence remained difficult to express through conventional numerical rankings, yet continued strengthening his global reputation throughout 2026. Marketing experts likewise examined RM's commercial influence with considerable interest. Although he often projected a more understated public image than many contemporary celebrities, brands increasingly recognized the value of authenticity within modern advertising. Official campaigns associated with RM consistently generated strong engagement from audiences seeking meaningful rather than purely promotional content. Consumer researchers suggested that his endorsements frequently benefited from exceptionally high levels of public trust, a characteristic becoming increasingly valuable within competitive international markets. Rather than relying on sensational publicity, his commercial partnerships often reflected carefully aligned values, reinforcing an image built on credibility and thoughtful decision-making. Such consistency contributed significantly to maintaining his visibility across multiple industries without creating the impression of excessive commercial exposure. Social media analysts observed another fascinating aspect of RM's popularity. Unlike accounts driven primarily by constant updates, his online presence often reflected measured communication rather than relentless activity. Nevertheless, every official post, interview excerpt, or public appearance generated substantial international discussion. Researchers explained that engagement quality frequently outweighed posting frequency, particularly for public figures whose audiences valued depth over quantity. Official data throughout 2026 suggested that RM supporters consistently demonstrated unusually high interaction rates, with conversations frequently extending into detailed analyses of literature, music production, artistic symbolism, and philosophical themes referenced within his work. Such patterns distinguished his audience from more conventional celebrity fandoms, reinforcing the perception that his influence operated simultaneously across entertainment, education, and cultural discourse. Despite these remarkable achievements, analysts also explained why this particular evaluation positioned RM at the 5th position rather than among the top 4. Official observations indicated that broader public recognition increasingly favored members whose activities generated higher levels of mainstream entertainment coverage, fashion visibility, commercial collaborations, or viral online engagement during specific periods of the year. While RM maintained extraordinary respect across diverse professional communities, popularity rankings based on multiple indicators inevitably balanced artistic influence against mass market exposure. Various experts emphasized that credibility and visibility, although related, do not always increase at identical rates. Consequently, some members achieved stronger public recognition through broader commercial activity, while RM's influence remained concentrated within audiences seeking artistic substance and intellectual engagement. This distinction highlighted the growing complexity surrounding contemporary celebrity evaluation. Entertainment historians frequently argued that RM represented a rare example of leadership maintaining relevance beyond organizational responsibilities. Even as each BTS member pursued increasingly independent careers, official public perception continued associating RM with the group's foundational identity. His decisions, interviews, and creative direction remained subjects of widespread analysis among journalists examining BTS's long-term legacy. Leadership itself became part of his popularity, not because it attracted dramatic headlines, but because it symbolized stability, maturity, and continuity within one of the most influential musical groups in modern history. Industry veterans suggested that such symbolic authority often becomes more valuable over time, particularly as artists transition from commercial success towards enduring cultural significance. Various public discussions naturally emerged following rankings that placed RM in the fifth position. Some supporters argued that songwriting achievements and cultural leadership deserved greater emphasis than conventional popularity metrics. Others believed streaming performance or social media visibility should remain the dominant indicators. Official analyses generally concluded that no universally accepted formula exists for comparing global public figures whose influence spans multiple industries simultaneously. Every ranking inevitably reflects methodological choices, and alternative criteria could.
Number 4. Jin. As the first rays of sunlight reflected across the skyline of Seoul in 2026, the entertainment industry was already awake long before the city itself. Search engines quietly recalculated global interest, streaming platforms refreshed millions of interactions accumulated overnight, and media monitoring systems began recording another cycle of worldwide headlines. Among the names that consistently resurfaced was Pim Sok-jin, known globally as Jin. For years, he had often been described through familiar labels: the eldest member of BTS, the group's visual, and an artist celebrated for his stable vocals and refined stage presence. Yet by 2026, those descriptions no longer captured the full scope of his individual influence. Official records increasingly portrayed Jin as a public figure whose popularity had evolved far beyond traditional idol status. His return to full-scale public activities, combined with remarkable solo achievements and renewed global visibility, transformed him into one of the most discussed members of BTS. Nevertheless, after evaluating worldwide search trends, media exposure, streaming performance, commercial influence, public recognition, international fan engagement, and long-term cultural relevance, this ranking ultimately placed Jin in the fourth position. While some observers expected him to appear even higher, analysts emphasized that the margins separating the top four had become extraordinarily narrow, making every position the subject of ongoing debate rather than absolute certainty. Entertainment researchers frequently highlighted one characteristic that distinguished Jin from many contemporary artists: consistency. Throughout his career, official records repeatedly demonstrated that Jin maintained an unusually stable public image despite dramatic changes within the global entertainment landscape. Rather than relying upon controversy, constant media appearances, or unpredictable publicity campaigns, his popularity developed through gradual accumulation of public trust. Industry experts often argue that consistency represents one of the rarest forms of influence because it requires maintaining audience confidence across many years instead of only capturing temporary attention. Throughout 2026, that reputation remained intact. Every official appearance generated significant international discussion, while interviews and performances consistently attracted audiences extending far beyond BTS's dedicated fanbase.
One of the most significant developments influencing Jin's popularity involved the continued success of his solo career. Official streaming data throughout the year indicated sustained international interest in his individual music, with listeners returning repeatedly to both earlier releases and newer projects. Music critics observed that Jin's vocal style possessed a timeless quality rarely dependent upon changing commercial trends. Rather than pursuing experimental concepts designed solely to dominate short-term charts, his music frequently emphasized emotional storytelling, melodic clarity, and expressive vocal performance. This approach allowed his work to maintain relevance long after initial release periods had concluded. Analysts described such longevity as evidence of durable audience engagement rather than temporary excitement generated by promotional cycles. Industry specialists also examined Jin's extraordinary international recognition beyond music itself. Throughout 2026, his public appearances continued generating extensive global media coverage, particularly within fashion, luxury branding, and entertainment journalism. Official reports suggested that brands increasingly valued Jin's reputation for elegance, professionalism, and authenticity. Marketing analysts emphasized that his endorsements consistently achieved remarkable engagement because audiences perceived his public image as genuine rather than manufactured. Unlike celebrities whose commercial partnerships often appeared excessive or inconsistent, Jin maintained a carefully balanced public presence that strengthened rather than diluted his personal brand. Consumer research indicated that this perception contributed significantly to long-term commercial credibility, making him an exceptionally attractive ambassador for international campaigns. Another fascinating dimension of Jin's popularity emerged through public perception surveys conducted across various regions. Official observations frequently showed that casual audiences, unfamiliar with every detail of BTS's history, still recognized Jin due to his distinctive visual identity and widespread media exposure. Entertainment experts referred to this phenomenon as cross-demographic recognition, where popularity extends beyond dedicated fan communities into the broader public consciousness. Such recognition proved particularly valuable because it demonstrated influence reaching audiences who did not necessarily participate actively within K-pop culture. According to several analysts, achieving this level of public familiarity represented one of the strongest indicators of enduring celebrity status. Social media researchers likewise documented impressive engagement surrounding Jin throughout the year. Although his online activity remained measured compared with many modern celebrities, every official update generated enormous international attention. Analysts noted that interaction rates consistently remained exceptionally high, with discussions appearing simultaneously across multiple languages and regions. Rather than depending on frequent posting schedules, Jin demonstrated that anticipation itself could become a powerful source of engagement. Official metrics suggested that audiences treated each appearance as a noteworthy event, allowing relatively infrequent updates to achieve extraordinary visibility without oversaturating public attention. Performance experts frequently returned to Jin's vocal abilities when assessing his long-term popularity. Official concert footage, live broadcasts, and critical reviews consistently praised the stability and emotional clarity of his performances. While technical discussions surrounding technique often varied among specialists, most agreed that Jin possessed an exceptional ability to communicate emotion through restrained yet expressive delivery. Critics argued that this emotional authenticity contributed significantly to audience loyalty. Rather than relying solely on technical perfection, his performances often created memorable experiences because listeners perceived genuine sincerity behind every note. Such qualities became increasingly valuable as audiences around the world sought authenticity within an entertainment industry frequently criticized for excessive commercial polish. However, despite these considerable strengths, analysts also explained why this ranking positioned Jin at number 4 instead of among the top 3. Official evaluations indicated that although his global recognition remained extraordinary, several other members experienced particularly strong momentum across broader international search trends, commercial activity, and digital engagement during key periods of 2026. Researchers emphasized that popularity rankings inevitably reflect relative performance rather than absolute success. Jin's influence did not diminish, rather, the competition among BTS members became increasingly intense as each individual expanded into different creative and commercial fields. Various methodologies produced slightly different results, reinforcing the idea that no single ranking could definitively capture every dimension of global popularity. Entertainment historians also observed that Jin's popularity possessed a distinctive emotional foundation. Throughout BTS's career, audiences frequently associated him with stability, reassurance, and quiet confidence. As public interest increasingly shifted towards individual identities following years of collective success, these qualities gained renewed significance. Official interviews consistently reinforced an image of maturity and humility, characteristics that resonated strongly with both longtime supporters and newer audiences discovering his work independently. Cultural analysts suggested that such emotional resonance often proves more durable than short-lived viral visibility, allowing public admiration to deepen gradually over time. Meanwhile, various online discussions attempted to explain why some surveys appeared to rank Jin higher while others placed him lower. Different analytical organizations prioritized different measurements. Some emphasized streaming totals, others focused on international search volume, commercial partnerships, media mentions, or public awareness studies. Official reports repeatedly reminded observers that popularity is inherently multidimensional, meaning no single statistic can fully represent an individual's global influence. Consequently, Jin's fourth-place position reflected one comprehensive interpretation rather than an unquestionable fact. As the evidence accumulated throughout 2026, one conclusion remained impossible to ignore. Jin had successfully transformed from being widely recognized as BTS's eldest member into an internationally respected solo artist whose influence reached music, fashion, luxury branding, and mainstream global entertainment. His popularity continued expanding through consistency rather than spectacle, earning admiration across generations and cultures alike. Yet, if an artist capable of commanding such widespread respect still inspired endless debate regarding his precise position within the world's most famous group, perhaps the greatest mystery was not why Jin stood at number 4, but whether quiet influence can sometimes leave a deeper mark than the loudest applause.
Number 3, Suga. As darkness settled over cities scattered across every continent, countless digital systems continued operating without interruption. Music platforms silently counted billions of streams, search engines mapped the shifting interests of millions of users, and international newsrooms monitored the names dominating the global conversation. Among those names, one continued to appear with remarkable consistency: Min Yoongi, known worldwide as Suga, and through his solo identity, August D. Unlike many artists whose popularity surged through carefully orchestrated publicity campaigns, Suga's influence often expanded in a quieter yet more enduring manner. Official records throughout 2026 consistently demonstrated that his presence extended far beyond conventional celebrity culture. He was recognized not only as one of the most accomplished rappers and producers in Korean music, but also as a creative force whose artistic identity resonated across multiple generations of listeners. After evaluating worldwide search interest, streaming performance, public recognition, commercial impact, media visibility, audience engagement, and long-term cultural influence, this ranking ultimately placed Suga in the 3rd position. The result surprised some observers while confirming the expectations of many industry analysts, who argued that his popularity had gradually transformed into something far more substantial than simple numerical success. Entertainment researchers frequently described Suga as one of the most influential creative figures to emerge from the global rise of K-pop. Official documentation spanning more than a decade consistently highlighted his extensive contributions as a songwriter, composer, producer, and performer. Unlike artists whose public image depended primarily on stage appearances, Suga built a reputation that reached deep into the creative foundations of modern Korean music. Music industry experts repeatedly emphasized that his influence could often be heard even when it could not immediately be seen. Songs carrying his creative fingerprints continued to accumulate millions of streams, while collaborations involving his production work attracted widespread critical attention across international markets. By 2026, analysts observed that this reputation had evolved into one of his greatest strengths. Public recognition no longer rested solely upon his performances, but upon an expanding legacy of artistic craftsmanship respected throughout the entertainment industry. Official streaming records throughout the year further reinforced this perception. Suga's solo catalog, released under both his own name and the August D identity, continued demonstrating remarkable longevity across global platforms. Analysts pointed out that his music often maintained consistent listening figures long after initial promotional periods had concluded, suggesting a level of audience loyalty extending beyond temporary trends. Critics argued that the emotional complexity and lyrical honesty present throughout his work encouraged repeated listening experiences, allowing songs to remain culturally relevant over extended periods. Rather than chasing short-lived viral moments, Suga appeared to cultivate a body of work that matured alongside its audience. This pattern fascinated entertainment researchers because it contrasted sharply with the increasingly fast-paced consumption habits dominating the digital era. Another significant factor contributing to Suga's position involved his reputation as one of the industry's most respected producers. Official records documented numerous successful projects associated with his creative direction, while fellow musicians frequently acknowledged his ability to combine commercial accessibility with artistic depth. Industry specialists suggested that this dual credibility significantly strengthened his popularity. Unlike celebrities admired exclusively by fans, Suga also commanded substantial respect from professionals working within music itself. Producers, composers, performers, and critics often cited his work as evidence of exceptional creative discipline. Such recognition rarely generates dramatic headlines, yet analysts emphasized that peer respect often serves as one of the strongest indicators of enduring influence. Media researchers also observed a fascinating evolution in public perception surrounding Suga throughout 2026. Earlier in his career, he had often been characterized by his reserved personality and understated public image. However, over time, audiences increasingly interpreted those qualities as signs of authenticity rather than distance. Official interviews consistently revealed thoughtful reflections on creativity, personal growth, and the realities of artistic life, contributing to an image built upon honesty rather than performance. Psychologists studying celebrity culture occasionally noted that authenticity frequently generates stronger long-term audience attachment than carefully constructed public personas. In Suga's case, this authenticity became one of the defining elements behind his expanding global popularity. Commercial analysts likewise examined his influence beyond music. Although Suga generally maintained a more selective approach toward public appearances and brand partnerships, campaigns associated with him consistently generated substantial international engagement. Marketing experts explained that scarcity itself often increased perceived value. Rather than appearing constantly across advertising campaigns, each official collaboration attracted heightened attention precisely because audiences recognized its relative rarity. Consumer research suggested that this strategy strengthened public trust while preserving the integrity of his artistic identity. As luxury brands increasingly sought ambassadors embodying sophistication and credibility rather than relentless visibility, Suga's carefully maintained image became an increasingly valuable asset within international marketing. Social media presented another layer of complexity. Unlike many contemporary celebrities who relied upon continuous digital activity, Suga demonstrated that influence could persist even without constant online presence. Official engagement data throughout 2026 revealed that discussions surrounding his music, interviews, production work, and performances continued circulating extensively across global platforms regardless of posting frequency. Analysts argued that such sustained conversation reflected genuine cultural relevance rather than algorithmic momentum alone. Fan-created analyses, lyric interpretations, production breakdowns, and documentary discussions frequently accumulated millions of views, illustrating that his work inspired deeper engagement than simple entertainment consumption. Researchers described this phenomenon as intellectual fandom, where audiences actively explored the creative process behind the finished product instead of focusing exclusively upon surface-level celebrity culture. Performance specialists repeatedly praised Suga's evolution as a live performer. Official concert reviews consistently highlighted the commanding presence he projected on stage despite maintaining a relatively restrained performance style compared with many high-energy entertainers. Critics observed that his performances relied less upon spectacle and more upon emotional intensity, lyrical conviction, and carefully structured musical progression. This approach resonated strongly with audiences seeking artistic substance rather than visual excess. Analysts suggested that his concerts increasingly resembled immersive storytelling experiences, strengthening emotional connections between performer and audience while reinforcing his reputation as a serious musician rather than merely a popular celebrity. Nevertheless, official evaluations also explained why Suga ultimately occupied the third position instead of the very top of this ranking. Researchers noted that although his artistic credibility remained virtually unmatched, broader mainstream visibility occasionally favored members whose activities generated higher levels of international media exposure, fashion coverage, or public engagement across more diverse demographic groups. Popularity, according to official analytical methodologies, reflected a combination of artistic respect and mass recognition. While Suga excelled remarkably within both categories, certain members achieved even greater worldwide visibility during key periods of 2026. Experts repeatedly cautioned that such differences represented relative comparisons among 7 globally recognized superstars rather than indications of declining influence. In virtually any broader entertainment context, Suga would still rank among the world's most influential musical figures. Entertainment historians frequently emphasized another crucial observation. They argued that Suga's legacy was already extending beyond his own career. His work influenced younger artists, inspired aspiring producers, and contributed to reshaping international perceptions of Korean musicians as serious creative professionals. Official discussions surrounding the globalization of K-pop increasingly acknowledged figures like Suga not only as performers, but as architects of an evolving musical movement. This broader cultural significance enhanced his popularity in ways that conventional statistics often struggled to capture. Public debate naturally intensified following rankings, placing Suga at number 3. Some observers argued that his songwriting achievements and production influence deserved greater weighting than social media engagement or commercial visibility. Others believed mainstream public recognition should remain the decisive factor. Official reports consistently responded with the same conclusion. No universally accepted formula exists for measuring global popularity across individuals whose careers span multiple creative industries. Every ranking reflects methodological choices, and alternative approaches inevitably produce different outcomes. Consequently, Suga's position represented one carefully balanced interpretation rather than an unquestionable verdict. As 2026 continued unfolding, the evidence increasingly pointed toward a remarkable reality. Suga had become more than an internationally celebrated musician. He represented artistic integrity, creative independence, and cultural influence operating simultaneously across music production, performance, songwriting, and global entertainment. His popularity was built not upon constant noise, but upon lasting substance, a foundation capable of surviving changing trends and shifting public attention. Yet if an artist whose work continued shaping both audiences and the industry itself could still become the subject of endless debate regarding his true position, perhaps the greatest mystery was not whether Suga deserved third place, but whether genuine artistic influence can ever be fully measured by rankings alone. Number 2. As the final hours before sunrise unfolded across different time zones, a silent competition continued within the invisible architecture of the internet. Search engines updated millions of queries every second. Streaming platforms recorded another wave of global listeners. Luxury fashion publications prepared their newest headlines, and social media algorithms quietly measured which names captured the world's attention most consistently. Among those names, one appeared with extraordinary frequency: Kim Taehyung, internationally known as V throughout 2026. His individual popularity became one of the most analyzed phenomena within the global entertainment industry. Official records consistently demonstrated that his influence reached far beyond the traditional boundaries of music, extending into fashion, luxury branding, photography, visual arts, acting speculation, and mainstream popular culture. Yet despite dominating countless international discussions and maintaining one of the strongest personal brands in K-pop history, this comprehensive evaluation ultimately placed Taehyung in the second position. For many observers, the result immediately raised a difficult question. If V remained one of the most recognizable Korean celebrities in the world, what factor prevented him from occupying the highest position? The answer, according to industry analysts, was far more complicated than simple statistics could ever reveal. Entertainment researchers frequently described Taehyung as a phenomenon whose popularity transcended conventional entertainment metrics. While many celebrities achieved recognition through music alone, official observations throughout 2026 indicated that V had successfully established himself as a global cultural icon. Fashion editors consistently identified him as one of the most influential male figures in luxury branding, while photographers and visual artists frequently praised his distinctive ability to communicate emotion through imagery rather than words. Every official appearance, whether at an airport, a fashion event, a public ceremony, or a media interview, generated worldwide attention almost instantly. Analysts noted that even relatively brief public appearances often produced millions of online interactions within hours, illustrating an exceptional level of public anticipation rarely achieved by modern entertainers. One of the strongest pillars supporting Taehyung's popularity throughout 2026 involved the continued expansion of his influence within the luxury fashion industry. Official reports repeatedly documented extensive media coverage surrounding his relationships with internationally recognized luxury houses, where his appearances consistently generated enormous digital engagement. Marketing experts emphasize that his commercial value extended beyond traditional endorsement campaigns. Products associated with him frequently experienced measurable increases in consumer attention immediately following public exposure, while fashion publications regularly cited him among the most influential global ambassadors representing contemporary luxury culture. Analysts explained that this phenomenon reflected not merely celebrity endorsement, but the establishment of a recognizable aesthetic identity. Taehyung's personal style became a subject of independent discussion, influencing fashion trends across multiple countries without requiring direct promotional activity. Music specialists likewise acknowledged the remarkable stability of his solo career. Official streaming data throughout the year demonstrated continued international interest in both his previous releases and ongoing artistic projects. Critics consistently praised the distinctive tone of his voice, describing it as one of the most recognizable vocal identities in contemporary Korean music. Rather than pursuing aggressive commercial experimentation, Taehyung frequently embraced timeless musical influences rooted in jazz, soul, and classic pop traditions. This artistic direction attracted audiences extending well beyond conventional K-pop communities, strengthening his reputation among listeners seeking musical sophistication, alongside emotional authenticity. Entertainment analysts argued that this crossover appeal represented one of his greatest competitive advantages within global markets. Social media researchers observed another extraordinary pattern surrounding Taehyung's public presence. Unlike many public figures who relied upon constant activity to maintain relevance, V demonstrated an unusual ability to dominate online conversations, even during extended periods of relative silence. Official engagement statistics consistently showed exceptionally high interaction rates whenever new content appeared, regardless of posting frequency. Analysts suggested that anticipation itself had become one of the defining characteristics of his popularity. Every official photograph, interview, performance, or appearance rapidly evolved into an international trending topic, with discussions emerging simultaneously across Asia, Europe, North America, South America, and the Middle East. Such global synchronization fascinated digital communication specialists because it reflected an audience operating across cultural and linguistic boundaries while responding almost instantaneously to a single individual. Public recognition studies conducted throughout 2026 further reinforced Taehyung's remarkable international profile. Official surveys frequently identified him among the most recognizable Korean celebrities worldwide, even among respondents with limited familiarity with BTS itself. Entertainment experts described this achievement as evidence of mainstream cultural penetration, where an individual's identity extends beyond their original artistic field into broader public awareness. Such recognition significantly strengthened his position within comprehensive popularity evaluations because it demonstrated influence reaching casual audiences in addition to dedicated supporters. Various analysts noted that celebrities capable of achieving this level of recognition often become enduring cultural symbols rather than temporary entertainment figures. Another significant dimension of Taehyung's popularity involved visual media. Photography professionals repeatedly highlighted his exceptional ability to command attention within editorial projects, advertising campaigns, and magazine covers. Official publications consistently reported unusually strong reader engagement whenever he appeared on their covers, while luxury brands observed comparable increases in digital interaction associated with visual campaigns featuring him. Researchers studying consumer behavior suggested that visual memorability represented one of the most valuable assets within contemporary marketing. Taehyung's distinctive image repeatedly demonstrated measurable commercial effectiveness, reinforcing his reputation as one of the entertainment industry's most valuable public figures. Performance critics also emphasized the emotional atmosphere characterizing Taehyung's live appearances. Official concert reviews frequently described his performances as restrained yet intensely expressive, allowing subtle gestures and vocal nuance to create profound audience reactions. Unlike artists relying primarily upon elaborate choreography or overwhelming spectacle, Taehyung often established emotional intimacy through controlled delivery and understated charisma. Critics argued that this unique performance philosophy contributed significantly to his enduring popularity because it created memorable experiences extending beyond technical execution. Audiences frequently described his stage presence as cinematic rather than theatrical, a distinction that further strengthened his artistic identity. Nevertheless, despite these extraordinary accomplishments, analysts consistently explained why this evaluation positioned Taehyung just one step below the highest rank. Official analytical reports suggested that while his influence remained unparalleled within fashion, visual branding, and mainstream public recognition, another member demonstrated slightly stronger cumulative performance when all measurable indicators, including worldwide streaming consistency, international search volume, commercial activity, digital engagement, and overall public visibility, were evaluated together throughout the entire year. Researchers emphasized that the difference separating the first and second positions proved exceptionally narrow, often varying depending upon methodology, geographic weighting, and statistical timeframe. Consequently, many alternative rankings placed Taehyung at the very top, illustrating how sensitive comprehensive evaluations had become among individuals possessing comparable levels of global influence. Industry historians frequently argued that Taehyung represented one of the defining cultural figures of his generation. His popularity no longer depended solely upon BTS or even upon music itself. Instead, he embodied an increasingly global image of Korean creativity, elegance, and artistic individuality. Official discussions surrounding the international expansion of Korean culture consistently identified figures like V as central contributors to this transformation, demonstrating that entertainment could simultaneously influence fashion, commerce, visual arts, and cultural diplomacy. Such multidimensional impact remained difficult to capture through ordinary numerical rankings, prompting ongoing debates regarding the true meaning of global popularity. As 2026 progressed, the evidence pointed toward an undeniable conclusion. Taehyung had established one of the strongest individual identities in modern entertainment, commanding extraordinary influence across industries that rarely intersected so successfully within a single public figure. His reputation extended beyond music into luxury fashion, global branding, photography, and international cultural recognition, making him one of the most influential Korean celebrities in history. Yet if someone capable of reshaping global conversations with nothing more than a single appearance still finished one position short of the summit, perhaps the greatest mystery was never why Taehyung ranked second. But what level of influence could possibly surpass a phenomenon that had already captivated nearly the entire world? Number 1. Jungkook. As the final hours before sunrise unfolded across different time zones, a silent competition continued within the invisible architecture of the internet. Search engines updated millions of queries every second. Streaming platforms recorded another wave of global listeners. Luxury fashion publications prepared their newest headlines, and social media algorithms quietly measured which names captured the world's attention most consistently. Among those names, one appeared with extraordinary frequency. Kim Taehyung, internationally known as V throughout 2026, his individual popularity became one of the most analyzed phenomena within the global entertainment industry. Official records consistently demonstrated that his influence reached far beyond the traditional boundaries of music, extending into fashion, luxury branding, photography, visual arts, acting speculation, and mainstream popular culture. Yet despite dominating countless international discussions and maintaining one of the strongest personal brands in K-pop history, this comprehensive evaluation ultimately placed Taehyung in the second position. For many observers, the result immediately raised a difficult question. If V remained one of the most recognizable Korean celebrities in the world, what factor prevented him from occupying the highest position? The answer, according to industry analysts, was far more complicated than simple statistics could ever reveal. Entertainment researchers frequently described Taehyung as a phenomenon whose popularity transcended conventional entertainment metrics. While many celebrities achieved recognition through music alone, official observations throughout 2026 indicated that V had successfully established himself as a global cultural icon. Fashion editors consistently identified him as one of the most influential male figures in luxury branding, while photographers and visual artists frequently praised his distinctive ability to communicate emotion through imagery rather than words. Every official appearance, whether at an airport, a fashion event, a public ceremony, or a media interview, generated worldwide attention almost instantly. Analysts noted that even relatively brief public appearances often produced millions of online interactions within hours, illustrating an exceptional level of public anticipation rarely achieved by modern entertainers. One of the strongest pillars supporting Taehyung's popularity throughout 2026 involved the continued expansion of his influence within the luxury fashion industry. Official reports repeatedly documented extensive media coverage surrounding his relationships with internationally recognized luxury houses, where his appearances consistently generated enormous digital engagement. Marketing experts emphasize that his commercial value extended beyond traditional endorsement campaigns. Products associated with him frequently experienced measurable increases in consumer attention immediately following public exposure, while fashion publications regularly cited him among the most influential global ambassadors representing contemporary luxury culture. Analysts explained that this phenomenon reflected not merely celebrity endorsement, but the establishment of a recognizable aesthetic identity. Taehyung's personal style became a subject of independent discussion, influencing fashion trends across multiple countries without requiring direct promotional activity. Music specialists likewise acknowledged the remarkable stability of his solo career. Official streaming data throughout the year demonstrated continued international interest in both his previous releases and ongoing artistic projects. Critics consistently praised the distinctive tone of his voice, describing it as one of the most recognizable vocal identities in contemporary Korean music. Rather than pursuing aggressive commercial experimentation, Taehyung frequently embraced timeless musical influences rooted in jazz, soul, and classic pop traditions. This artistic direction attracted audiences extending well beyond conventional K-pop communities, strengthening his reputation among listeners seeking musical sophistication, alongside emotional authenticity. Entertainment analysts argued that this crossover appeal represented one of his greatest competitive advantages within global markets. Social media researchers observed another extraordinary pattern surrounding Taehyung's public presence. Unlike many public figures who relied upon constant activity to maintain relevance, V demonstrated an unusual ability to dominate online conversations even during extended periods of relative silence. Official engagement statistics consistently showed exceptionally high interaction rates whenever new content appeared, regardless of posting frequency. Analysts suggested that anticipation itself had become one of the defining characteristics of his popularity. Every official photograph, interview, performance, or appearance rapidly evolved into an international trending topic, with discussions emerging simultaneously across Asia, Europe, North America, South America, and the Middle East. Such global synchronization fascinated digital communication specialists because it reflected an audience operating across cultural and linguistic boundaries while responding almost instantaneously to a single individual. Public recognition studies conducted throughout 2026 further reinforced Taehyung's remarkable international profile. Official surveys frequently identified him among the most recognizable Korean celebrities worldwide, even among respondents with limited familiarity with BTS itself. Entertainment experts described this achievement as evidence of mainstream cultural penetration, where an individual's identity extends beyond their original artistic field into broader public awareness. Such recognition significantly strengthened his position within comprehensive popularity evaluations because it demonstrated influence reaching casual audiences in addition to dedicated supporters. Various analysts noted that celebrities capable of achieving this level of recognition often become enduring cultural symbols rather than temporary entertainment figures. Another significant dimension of Taehyung's popularity involved visual media. Photography professionals repeatedly highlighted his exceptional ability to command attention within editorial projects, advertising campaigns, and magazine covers. Official publications consistently reported unusually strong reader engagement whenever he appeared on their covers, while luxury brands observed comparable increases in digital interaction associated with visual campaigns featuring him. Researchers studying consumer behavior suggested that visual memorability represented one of the most valuable assets within contemporary marketing. Taehyung's distinctive image repeatedly demonstrated measurable commercial effectiveness, reinforcing his reputation as one of the entertainment industry's most valuable public figures. Performance critics also emphasize the emotional atmosphere characterizing Taehyung's live appearances. Official concert reviews frequently described his performances as restrained, yet intensely expressive, allowing subtle gestures and vocal nuance to create profound audience reactions. Unlike artists relying primarily upon elaborate choreography or overwhelming spectacle, Taehyung often established emotional intimacy through controlled delivery and understated charisma. Critics argued that this unique performance philosophy contributed significantly to his enduring popularity because it created memorable experiences extending beyond technical execution. Audiences frequently described his stage presence as cinematic rather than theatrical, a distinction that further strengthened his artistic identity. Nevertheless, despite these extraordinary accomplishments, analysts consistently explained why this evaluation positioned Taehyung just one step below the highest rank. Official analytical reports suggested that while his influence remained unparalleled within fashion, visual branding, and mainstream public recognition, another member demonstrated slightly stronger cumulative performance when all measurable indicators, including worldwide streaming consistency, international search volume, commercial activity, digital engagement, and overall public visibility, were evaluated together throughout the entire year. Researchers emphasized that the difference separating the first and second positions proved exceptionally narrow, often varying depending upon methodology, geographic weighting, and statistical timeframe. Consequently, many alternative rankings placed Taehyung at the very top, illustrating how sensitive comprehensive evaluations had become among individuals possessing comparable levels of global influence. Industry historians frequently argued that Taehyung represented one of the defining cultural figures of his generation. His popularity no longer depended solely upon BTS or even upon music itself. Instead, he embodied an increasingly global image of Korean creativity, elegance, and artistic individuality. Official discussions surrounding the international expansion of Korean culture consistently identified figures like V as central contributors to this transformation, demonstrating that entertainment could simultaneously influence fashion, commerce, visual arts, and cultural diplomacy. Such multidimensional impact remained difficult to capture through ordinary numerical rankings, prompting ongoing debates regarding the true meaning of global popularity. As 2026 progressed, the evidence pointed toward an undeniable conclusion. Taehyung had established one of the strongest individual identities in modern entertainment, commanding extraordinary influence across industries that rarely intersected so successfully within a single public figure. His reputation extended beyond music into luxury fashion, global branding, photography, and international cultural recognition, making him one of the most influential Korean celebrities in history. Yet if someone capable of reshaping global conversations with nothing more than a single appearance still finished one position short of the summit, perhaps the greatest mystery was never why Taehyung ranked second. But what level of influence could possibly surpass a phenomenon that had already captivated nearly the entire world?